Why do some people earn millions and still lose everything? Why can an ordinary worker with no financial degree quietly build a fortune, while a brilliant financial expert ends up bankrupt? Why do intelligent people panic when markets fall, chase risky investments when prices rise, and spend money they do not have just to impress people they do not even know?
Chapter 1. No one's crazy. The Great Depression devastated the United States. Between 1929 and 1933, markets collapsed, banks failed, unemployment exploded, and families lost homes and life savings. For millions of Americans, the Depression became the event that shaped their relationship with money for the rest of their lives. But not every American experienced the 1930s in the same way. John F. Kennedy grew up during the Depression, yet his childhood looked nothing like the lives of ordinary families. His father, Joseph Kennedy, was extraordinarily wealthy. The Kennedy children lived comfortably, had household staff, received elite educations, and were protected from much of the economic suffering surrounding them. Years later, when John F. Kennedy entered politics, he was reportedly surprised by just how deeply the Depression had affected average families. He had lived through the same decade, but he had not lived through the same experience. This difference is not limited to rich and poor families. Researchers Ulrike Malmendier and Stefan Nagel studied how personal economic experiences affect financial behavior. They found that people who experienced strong stock market returns when they were young were more likely to invest in stocks later. People shaped by weak markets were less willing to take that risk. Those who lived through high inflation became more cautious about bonds. Personal experience did not merely influence an opinion. It changed financial behavior for decades. Two intelligent people could study the same data and reach different conclusions because one had experienced reward, while the other had experienced pain. Super summary. The lesson. People do not develop their financial beliefs by studying the entire history of money. They develop them through the small piece of history that touched their own lives. A person raised during a period of rising property prices may believe property is the safest path to wealth. Someone whose family lost a house may view property debt as terrifying. A person who watched their parents build a business may see entrepreneurship as freedom. Someone whose family business collapsed may believe a permanent salary is the only responsible choice. Neither belief appeared from nowhere. Both are emotional responses to real events. This is why financial behavior that looks foolish from the outside can feel completely reasonable to the person making the decision. A worker who spends their first salary on an expensive phone may understand that it is not the most efficient financial decision, but the phone may represent the first new possession they have ever chosen for themselves. A parent who holds too much money in cash may understand that inflation reduces its value. But if that parent once watched a family investment disappear, safety may matter more than maximum return. Understanding this does not mean every decision should be approved. It means advice becomes more useful when it begins with empathy rather than judgment. The chapter also contains a warning. Your experiences are powerful, but they are incomplete. The economic world that shaped your parents may not be the world you will face. A career that was secure for 30 years may be disrupted by technology. An investment that performed well during your first 5 years may disappoint during the next 10. One successful outcome does not prove that your strategy will always work. One failure does not prove that every similar opportunity must be avoided. A mature financial mindset says, "My experience taught me something important, but it did not teach me everything." That sentence creates humility. It allows you to respect your history without becoming trapped by it. It also prepares you to accept another difficult truth. Financial outcomes are never produced by decisions alone. Luck and risk are always present. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. Bill Gates attended Lakeside School in Seattle during the late 1960s. At that time, access to a computer was extraordinarily rare. Computers were expensive machines used mainly by governments, universities, and large corporations. Lakeside's Mothers Club used money from a fundraising sale to rent computer time for students. That decision gave Gates and a small group of classmates access to a technology that most young people in the world had never touched. Gates became obsessed. He spent every available hour learning to program. Later, a company allowed him and his friends to use its computer in exchange for finding problems in the system. Then, another opportunity gave them access to a computer during the night. None of this guarantees that Gates would build Microsoft. He still required intelligence, relentless curiosity, confidence, and years of work. But access mattered. Bill Gates himself acknowledged that the number of teenagers in the world who had the same level of computer access during that period was incredibly small. One of Gates's closest friends was Kent Evans. Evans was intelligent, ambitious, and interested in business. Gates later described him as a talented student who could have worked alongside him for years, but Kent Evans died in a mountaineering accident before finishing high school. The same small school produced two remarkable young men. One received a rare opportunity at the perfect moment and went on to help build one of the world's most important companies. The other suffered an event so unlikely and destructive that his potential could never be realized. Luck pushed one life forward. Risk ended the other. Lesson: luck and risk are the same force moving in opposite directions. Luck is what happens when circumstances outside your control help you. Risk is what happens when circumstances outside your control hurt you. This idea is uncomfortable because people prefer clean explanations. Successful people are described as brilliant, brave, disciplined, or visionary. Unsuccessful people are described as lazy, foolish, or careless. Sometimes those descriptions are accurate, but they are never the complete story. A business owner can make a good decision shortly before an unexpected recession destroys demand. Another business owner can make reckless decisions while a booming market hides every mistake. The first may look incompetent. The second may look like a genius. The outcome does not always reveal the quality of the decision. A person can place all their money into one risky investment and double it. That does not make the risk intelligent. Another person can build a diversified portfolio just before the market falls. That does not make diversification foolish. Luck can reward a bad process. Risk can punish a good process. This is why copying one successful person is dangerous. One founder succeeded by ignoring all advice. Thousands of failed founders may have behaved exactly the same way. One investor became rich using borrowed money. Many others using identical leverage were removed from the market and forgotten. The winners remain visible. The losers disappear. Instead of copying one extraordinary outcome, study broad patterns that have worked for many people. Spend less than you earn. Avoid debt capable of causing ruin. Build useful skills. Maintain good relationships. Protect your reputation. Remain adaptable. Give sound decisions enough time to work. Luck and risk should also change how you judge yourself. When things go well, effort deserves credit, but gratitude protects success from turning into arrogance. When things go badly, responsibility is necessary. But one painful result does not prove that you are incapable. Learn from what you controlled. Remain humble about what you did not. Work as if your choices matter enormously. Prepare as if choices are not the only things that matter. The goal is not to remove luck and risk. The goal is to build a financial life that can survive bad luck and remain available for good luck. And even when good luck arrives, it can be wasted by someone who never recognizes when they already possess enough. Chapter 3. Never Enough. Rajat Gupta rose from difficult beginnings to the highest levels of global business. Orphaned as a teenager, he studied at the Indian Institute of Technology and Harvard Business School. He eventually became the managing director of McKinsey & Company. Gupta served on the boards of major corporations and moved among some of the world's most influential business leaders. He had wealth, prestige, connections, a reputation built over decades. He had already achieved more financial and professional success than almost anyone could reasonably expect. Yet Gupta became involved in passing confidential corporate information to hedge fund manager Raj Rajaratnam. He was convicted of insider trading and sent to prison. The potential financial benefit was small compared with what he already possessed. The downside included his freedom, reputation, and legacy. He risked something priceless to gain something unnecessary. Bernie Madoff presents an even more extreme version of the same problem. Before operating the Ponzi scheme that made his name infamous, Madoff ran a legitimate and successful market-making business. He was respected on Wall Street and had already accumulated significant wealth. He did not begin his fraud as a desperate man with no options. He already had enough to live comfortably. Yet enough was not enough. The fraud grew until it destroyed thousands of lives, his family, his reputation, and his freedom. The lesson: there is no financial finish line unless you create one. The person earning 30,000 rupees compares themselves with the person earning 60,000 rupees. The person earning 60,000 rupees notices someone earning 200,000 rupees. The millionaire compares themselves with another millionaire. The billionaire compares themselves with a richer billionaire. Every level introduces a new group of people who have more. Comparison converts achievement into dissatisfaction. Morgan Housel recalls a story involving writers Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. At a party hosted by a wealthy man, Vonnegut observed that their host had earned more in a single day than Heller had made from his enormously successful novel Catch-22. Heller replied that he possessed something the host might never have. He knew he had enough. That is one of the most powerful financial abilities a person can develop. Enough does not mean rejecting ambition. It does not mean refusing to improve your life. It means understanding which things should never be placed at risk. Reputation is invaluable. Freedom is invaluable. Family, health, and peace of mind are invaluable. Do not risk what is essential to obtain something that will barely change your life. Ambition without boundaries becomes a machine that consumes everything placed inside it. A person may begin by working hard to provide security for their family. After security is achieved, they continue sacrificing family time to purchase status. The original goal disappears. The scoreboard takes over. This is why defining enough must happen before success arrives. Greed is difficult to recognize while it is producing rewards. Write down what financial security means for you. Decide which debts you want eliminated. Decide how much freedom you want over your time. Decide what you will never sacrifice simply to increase a number. Without this boundary, every achievement becomes temporary. Enough allows you to remain ambitious without becoming permanently dissatisfied. It allows you to enjoy success without needing to defeat every person around you. And once you stop chasing endless comparison, you can give the most powerful force in wealth creation the one thing it requires: time. Chapter 4. Confounding. Compounding the story. The story of Earth's ice ages does not begin with one enormous snowfall. Ice accumulates when summers become cool enough that some of the previous winter's snow does not melt. The remaining snow reflects more sunlight away from Earth. That creates slightly cooler conditions. The next winter adds more snow. The next summer melts even less. A small change reinforces itself. Over an enormous period, what began as a thin layer can become an ice sheet kilometers thick. The transformation looks impossible when only the beginning and ending are compared. The connecting process consists of small changes compounding. Warren Buffett's fortune followed a similar pattern. Buffett began investing as a child. His investment skill was exceptional, but the duration of his career was just as important. The overwhelming majority of his wealth accumulated after his 50th birthday, and a huge share arrived after the traditional retirement age. This does not mean Buffett suddenly became far more intelligent in old age. It means decades of earlier gains had created a much larger base on which new gains could accumulate. Jim Simons, the mathematician who founded Renaissance Technologies, achieved investment returns far higher than Buffett's for many years. Yet Buffett's overall fortune benefited from a much longer period of compounding. Buffett's secret was not simply earning strong returns, it was earning good returns for an extraordinary length of time. The lesson: human beings understand linear progress better than exponential progress. When 1 year produces a small result, we expect 10 years to produce 10 times that result. Compounding behaves differently. The gains begin generating their own gains. Then, those gains generate more gains. The early years appear slow because the base is small. The later years appear extraordinary because the process has been building silently. This creates a psychological challenge. People abandon compounding during the stage when it looks unimpressive. They invest for 2 years and see no dramatic change. They build a business for 6 months and compare it with a company that has existed for 20 years. They practice a skill for weeks and become discouraged because nobody notices. They want proof before the process has had enough time to produce it. The greatest enemy of compounding is unnecessary interruption. Panic during a market fall. Debt that forces an investment to be sold. Constantly changing strategies. Chasing higher returns. Taking one enormous risk that removes you from the game. A moderate return that survives for 30 years can outperform a brilliant return that survives for 3. This principle extends beyond money. Knowledge compounds when one idea helps you understand the next. Skills compound when repeated practice creates abilities that make future learning easier. Reputation compounds when years of reliable behavior make people trust you with larger opportunities. Relationships compound when small acts of honesty and generosity accumulate. Bad habits compound too. Small debts become larger obligations. Small unnecessary expenses become a lifestyle. Small acts of dishonesty become a damaged reputation. Compounding magnifies whatever is allowed to continue. The question is not only, what can produce the highest return? The better question is, what can I continue doing through boredom, fear, uncertainty, and temporary disappointment? Financial wealth does not always require a spectacular result. It often requires a reasonable result that is protected from interruption. Time is the force that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. But time only helps the person who survives. That is why getting wealthy and staying wealthy require 2 completely different mindsets. Chapter 6. Tales, You. Heinz Berggruen began collecting art after the Second World War. He purchased works from artists who were not always considered valuable at the time. Many of his acquisitions produced little financial value. A few became extraordinary. Works by Pablo Picasso, Paul Klee, Henri Matisse, and other masters eventually made Berggruen's collection worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His success did not require every purchase to be brilliant. A small number of exceptional works created nearly all the value. Walt Disney experienced the same pattern in a different industry. During the early years of his company, many projects failed to produce meaningful profits. Disney's studio faced severe financial pressure. Its cartoons were expensive, distributors held power, and the business could easily have disappeared. Then Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs arrived. The film was considered a dangerous gamble. Disney spent far more than the studio could comfortably afford, and critics referred to the project as a foolish risk. When it succeeded, it transformed the company. The profits allowed Disney to build a new studio, expand production, and create the foundation of an entertainment empire. Hundreds of projects contributed to Disney's history. A small number created most of its value. The same pattern appears in venture capital. Many investments fail. A few succeed modestly. One extraordinary company can pay for the entire portfolio. Stock market data also reveal that many individual companies lose most of their value, while a small number of major winners drive a large share of the market's total return. The lesson: success does not always require being right most of the time. In fields driven by rare outcomes, what matters is how much you gain when you are right compared with how much you lose when you are wrong. A writer can produce several books that receive little attention before one changes their career. A creator can publish dozens of videos before one introduces the channel to a massive audience. A business can test several products before one matches what customers truly need. The final breakthrough looks sudden. The learning process was not. This is emotionally difficult because each failed attempt feels personal. People experience every disappointment. The world remembers only the success. Understanding tail events changes how failure should be managed. The goal is not to avoid every failure. The goal is to keep failures small enough that you can continue. Walt Disney's risk nearly destroyed his company. That is not a reason to gamble recklessly. It is a reminder that breakthrough opportunities often contain uncertainty. The strategy must protect survival while preserving upside. A diversified investor can endure several poor investments. A creator who controls production costs can continue experimenting. A business with reserves can test ideas without risking its entire existence each time. The lesson is not never quit. Persistence without thought can become denial. Instead, ask, is the downside survivable? Am I learning from each attempt? Does the process still make sense? Could one meaningful success outweigh several limited failures? Tail events also explain why leaving the market during a disappointing period can be costly. A small number of powerful days may create a large portion of long-term returns. A person who abandons the plan after months of frustration may miss the rare period that matters most. Careers work the same way. One introduction, one client, one project, one acquired skill. Any of these can redirect decades of life. You cannot command the moment to arrive. You can remain prepared. You can keep improving. You can protect enough financial stability to stay in the game. And that stability matters because the highest return money can provide is not a higher score. It is freedom. Russ R. Chapter 7. Freedom. Psychologist Angus Campbell spent years studying well-being in America. Psychology at the time focused heavily on mental illness, depression, anxiety, and other conditions that reduced quality of life. Campbell approached the subject from another direction. He wanted to understand what made people feel good about their lives. He examined income, education, location, career, and other external conditions. The strongest common factor was not simply having the highest salary or the most prestigious job. People were happier when they felt they had control over their own lives. The ability to decide how their time was used mattered enormously. A person could enjoy their work and still become miserable if every hour was controlled by someone else. Another person could perform difficult work yet feel fulfilled because it was chosen freely. Modern prosperity has brought better homes, technology, healthcare, transport, and entertainment. But many people have simultaneously surrendered control over their attention and time. Email follows them home. Phones keep them permanently reachable. Higher expenses make every salary essential. Success increases responsibility faster than it increases freedom. The person earns more but feels less able to stop. The greatest value of money is its ability to give you control over your time. Money allows you to wait. It allows you to reject an unfair offer. It gives you time to search for work that suits you. It can help you leave a harmful workplace, care for someone you love, recover from exhaustion, study a new skill, or begin a business. Savings purchase the right to say no. No to disrespect. No to unnecessary urgency. No to decisions made only because one missed salary would create disaster. This does not mean the goal of wealth is to stop working. Meaningful work can provide purpose, mastery, connection, and pride. Freedom means having more influence over when, where, how, and with whom that work is done. A person earning less with control over their schedule may experience more wealth than someone earning far more while trapped by payments and expectations. Even a small financial reserve creates freedom. 1 month of expenses reduces panic. Several months create time. Low debt reduces the income required to maintain your life. A useful skill gives you more employment options. Each step widens the distance between an unexpected problem and a desperate decision. Lifestyle inflation often destroys this benefit. A salary increases. The house becomes larger. The car becomes more expensive. Subscriptions, fees, and payments expand. The person appears richer but requires every future salary to arrive. Their income increased. Their independence did not. The best measure of a purchase is not only its price. Ask what it does to your future time. Does it reduce stress? Does it save hours? Does it create meaningful experience? Or does it add another payment that forces you to keep doing work you no longer want? A luxury object can be enjoyable, but control over 1 year of your life may be worth far more. Money can buy many things. Its highest dividend is the ability to wake up with greater ownership over the day ahead. Yet people often sacrifice that freedom because they believe visible possessions will make others admire them. Morgan Housel learned how weak that promise was while parking expensive cars. Chapter 8. The Man in the Car. Morgan Housel worked as a valet at a luxury hotel in Los Angeles. Expensive cars arrived constantly: Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys. Drivers handed over the keys, and the valets briefly entered a world of wealth and status. Housel admired the cars. He thought about how it would feel to own one. He assumed that driving such a car would cause strangers to admire him. Then he noticed something important. When he saw a Ferrari, he did not spend much time admiring the driver. He imagined himself driving the Ferrari. The owner believed the car would make other people think highly of him. The observer mainly used the car as a symbol of the life they wanted for themselves. Attention landed on the object, not the owner. The driver wanted admiration. The car received it. Housel refers to this as the man in the car paradox. The lesson: people often spend money on status symbols because they want respect. But possessions attract attention more reliably than they create admiration. A luxury car may make people look. A watch may communicate expense. A large house may cause curiosity. None of these automatically produces genuine respect for the owner. Respect is more often earned through qualities money cannot purchase: competence, reliability, courage, generosity, honesty, leadership. How someone behaves when they have power. How they treat people who cannot offer them anything. This does not make expensive objects wrong. Someone may love engineering and genuinely enjoy a sports car. Another person may appreciate fashion, craftsmanship, technology, or travel. Money is meant to improve life. The problem begins when an object is expected to repair identity. A purchase can briefly change how you feel. It cannot permanently cure insecurity. Human beings adapt quickly. The new phone becomes an ordinary phone. The new car becomes transportation. The larger home becomes the place where daily life happens. When the excitement fades, another upgrade is required. Status becomes a subscription that constantly increases its price. Social media makes the problem stronger. People display the car but not the loan, the holiday but not the credit card bill, the business victory but not the months when payroll created panic. The audience sees consumption and assumes wealth. The person watching then sacrifices real financial security to reproduce the appearance. The man in the car paradox offers a liberating truth. Other people are thinking about you far less than you believe. Most are thinking about themselves. You do not need to build your financial life around winning the approval of an audience that is barely paying attention. Purchase what genuinely improves your life. Do not purchase an identity for strangers. Once status stops controlling spending, it becomes easier to build something far more powerful. Wealth that cannot be seen. Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. Singer Rihanna once came close to financial disaster after years of heavy spending. She later sued her accountant, arguing that she had received poor financial guidance. The accountant's response was blunt in spirit. If a person spends money on possessions, they are left with possessions rather than money. The statement sounds obvious, yet it exposes one of the greatest misunderstandings surrounding wealth. People see the house, the car, the clothes, the holiday. They do not see the bank account that became smaller to purchase them. During Housel's time as a valet, a regular customer arrived in a Porsche. The car created an appearance of success. Later, the vehicle was repossessed. The customer eventually returned in an older car. The Porsche had revealed that he could access enough money or credit to obtain a Porsche. It had not proved that he was wealthy. Visible consumption gave outsiders incomplete information. The lesson: rich and wealthy are not identical. Rich often describes current income. It is visible through spending. Wealth is income that has not been spent. It is hidden in savings, investments, low debt, and future options. Someone earning 200,000 rupees each month and spending 195,000 rupees may look rich. Someone earning 80,000 rupees and spending 45,000 rupees may look ordinary. But the second person is building more freedom every month. The first requires the high income to continue. The second is gradually becoming less dependent on future income. This is why wealth is difficult to learn by observation. People naturally imitate what they can see. They see successful people purchasing luxury items and assume the items are part of the process that created success. But spending is the opposite of saving. The car may be a reward created by wealth. It is not necessarily evidence that wealth remains. True wealth consists of the things not purchased, the upgrade postponed, the larger loan rejected, the income increase that did not become a permanent expense, the investment allowed to continue growing. This does not mean every rupee must be saved. A life devoted only to accumulation can become empty. Money should create comfort, experiences, generosity, and enjoyment. The goal is to make the trade consciously. Every purchase exchanges future flexibility for present value. Sometimes the present value is worth it. Education can expand opportunity. Travel can deepen relationships and memory. A reliable vehicle can save time. A comfortable home can support family life. Other purchases exist mainly to signal status. Ask, does this meaningfully improve my life? Or am I attempting to make my life look impressive from a distance? Building wealth often requires accepting that other people may underestimate you. You may own a simple phone while holding valuable investments. You may live in a modest home while carrying no debt. You may repeat clothes while possessing the freedom to survive a year without income. Visible riches create attention. Invisible wealth creates power. And the most reliable way to build invisible wealth is not finding a perfect investment. It is developing the ability to save. Chapter 10. Save Money. During the 1970s, the world feared that it was running out of oil. Economic growth required energy. Cars, factories, homes, and transport consumed increasing amounts of fuel. Experts worried that production could not keep pace with demand. More oil was eventually discovered and extracted. But another force mattered just as much. Efficiency improved. Vehicles traveled farther using less fuel. Buildings required less energy. Machines became more productive. Society achieved more without requiring energy consumption to grow at the same rate. The solution was not only producing more, it was needing less for each unit of progress. Housel applies the same principle to personal finance. People focus on earning more and achieving higher investment returns. But both contain uncertainty. An employer controls the raise. Markets control short-term returns. Savings rate is much more directly influenced by personal behavior. A person can become financially stronger not only by increasing income, but by becoming more efficient with the income already available. The lesson. Building wealth depends heavily on the gap between income and spending. A high income does not guarantee wealth. Without a gap, there is nothing to accumulate. A moderate income with a consistent gap can create security over time. Beyond essential needs and genuine comfort, much spending is influenced by ego. A person wants the car that matches their new job title, the home expected by their social group, the phone owned by their friends, the holiday that produces an impressive post. Reducing ego can sometimes improve finances faster than increasing income. This idea must be applied with compassion. Someone struggling to afford food, housing, healthcare, or transport cannot solve every problem by spending less. Income matters greatly when basic needs are not covered, but as income rises beyond basic needs, lifestyle often rises just as quickly. The person earns more without becoming more secure. Saving interrupts that cycle. It does something even when no specific purchase is planned. Saving without a named goal is not meaningless. It purchases flexibility. It allows you to wait for a better job instead of accepting the first offer. It provides time to learn. It helps you survive a recession. It gives you the ability to take advantage of an opportunity that did not exist when the money was saved. Money sitting safely may appear to produce a low financial return, but if it prevents a desperate decision, its real return can be enormous. The habit matters before the amount becomes large. Saving a small percentage teaches your mind that not every rupee must be consumed immediately. When income rises, the habit can expand. Without the habit, higher income may simply create more expensive spending. Saving is not only postponing consumption, it is purchasing future control. The amount in the account represents days during which you can survive without asking permission from anyone. It represents problems that will remain temporary instead of becoming catastrophic. Income may be influenced by the economy. Returns may be influenced by the market. Your savings behavior is one of the few major variables you can influence repeatedly. Yet a plan must account for the fact that human beings are emotional. The mathematically perfect strategy can fail when it becomes psychologically impossible to follow. That is why reasonable often beats rational. Chapter 11. Reasonable is better than rational. Julius Wagner Jauregg was a physician working before antibiotics became widely available. One of the most feared conditions of the time was neurosyphilis. Wagner Jauregg noticed that some patients appeared to improve after experiencing severe fevers. He deliberately infected patients with malaria to produce a high fever, then treated the malaria. The method sounds shocking now, but it produced enough success that he received the Nobel Prize in Medicine. A fever is not always simply an enemy. It is part of the body's response to infection. From a strictly biological perspective, immediately eliminating every fever may not always be optimal. But a parent watching a child suffer does not think like a cold medical model. They want relief. The fully rational answer and the emotionally reasonable answer can differ. Finance contains the same tension. Harry Markowitz helped create modern portfolio theory, which uses mathematics to balance risk and return. When managing his own early retirement portfolio, however, Markowitz reportedly divided his money roughly between stocks and bonds. He was not following the most mathematically optimized version of his own theory. He was trying to minimize future regret. If stocks rose, he would own some. If stocks fell, he would not own only stocks. The father of rational portfolio construction made a deeply human decision. The lesson: a strategy is only valuable when a real person can follow it. One investment plan may offer a higher expected return, but if its volatility causes you to panic and sell, the theoretical advantage disappears. Another strategy may offer a lower expected return, but allow you to remain invested for decades. The second plan may create more wealth because it survives contact with your emotions. Reasonable decisions can look imperfect in a spreadsheet. Paying off a low-interest mortgage may not maximize expected returns, but living without debt may give someone confidence and peace. Holding extra cash may reduce portfolio growth, but the cash may prevent investments from being sold during a crisis. Buying a home may not always beat renting mathematically, but the emotional security of a permanent family home can carry genuine value. Money exists to support a human life. Human life does not exist to maximize an equation. This is not permission to ignore mathematics. Interest rates, fees, inflation, taxes, and risk still matter. Reasonableness should not become an excuse for reckless behavior. The point is that psychological endurance must be included in the calculation. Money disagreements between partners often demonstrate this. One partner sees saving as safety. The other sees spending as enjoying life. One sees debt as a useful tool. The other remembers what debt did to their family. The disagreement cannot always be solved by proving who has the superior formula. Each person must understand what money represents emotionally. The best financial plan is not necessarily the one an economist would design for an emotionless machine. It is the sound plan that lets you sleep, remain consistent, and avoid panic. A reasonable plan followed for 30 years is superior to an optimal plan abandoned after 3. Part of being reasonable is recognizing that no model can include everything. The events that matter most are often the ones nobody predicted. Chapter 12. Surprise. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, were a human tragedy. Their economic consequences traveled far beyond the immediate destruction. After the attacks, the United States entered a period of fear and uncertainty. The Federal Reserve reduced interest rates to support the economy. Lower rates made borrowing easier. Cheap credit contributed to rising house prices. Rising prices encouraged more borrowing and risk-taking. The housing bubble expanded. When that bubble collapsed, it contributed to the global financial crisis. Businesses failed. Unemployment rose. Young people facing a weak job market entered college in greater numbers. Many relied on student loans. Years later, a large student debt burden had become a defining economic issue. No person watching the events of September 11th could have confidently mapped that entire chain in advance. A terrorist attack influenced monetary policy. Monetary policy influenced housing. Housing influenced employment. Employment influenced education. Education influenced debt. History compounds through connections that only become obvious after they have occurred. The lesson: the events that shape the economy most strongly are often surprising. If everyone predicted them, people would prepare. Prices would adjust. Behavior would change. Their impact would be smaller. History remains useful, but it cannot serve as a perfect map. It teaches how people behave under greed, fear, scarcity, and opportunity. It does not reveal the exact form of the next crisis or invention. A person living in 1900 could not accurately forecast the coming century. World wars, antibiotics, commercial aviation, nuclear weapons, computers, the internet, modern financial markets. Yet these developments determined careers, fortunes, industries, and entire nations. The next 50 years will contain forces that do not yet have familiar names. This changes the purpose of planning. Planning should not be an attempt to control the exact future. It should prepare you to adapt when the future differs from the forecast. A resilient person maintains savings without knowing the exact emergency. They develop skills capable of moving between industries. They avoid debt that requires uninterrupted income. They diversify rather than betting everything on one prediction. Hindsight makes surprise easy to forget. After a company succeeds, commentators explain why success was inevitable. After a crash, experts explain why the warning signs were obvious. But before the outcome, uncertainty was real. The story becomes cleaner after the ending is known. This illusion makes people overconfident about their ability to predict what comes next. Prepare for negative surprises. Also remain open to positive ones. A new technology can create a career. A chance meeting can introduce a partner or mentor. A small investment can become unusually successful. A skill can become valuable because the world changes in an unexpected direction. You cannot name every future event. You can avoid becoming so fragile that one surprise destroys you. That requires room for error. Chapter 13. Room for Error. Professional blackjack players understand that the game operates through probability, not certainty. A skilled card counter may know that the odds have temporarily moved in their favor, but favorable odds do not guarantee the next hand. A player can make the correct decision and still lose. The advantage appears only across many hands. To survive long enough for that advantage to matter, the player cannot risk the entire bankroll on one round. They must leave room for error. Bill Gates applied a similar principle while building Microsoft. During the company's early years, Gates wanted enough cash available to keep the business operating for a significant period without receiving any revenue. Microsoft was growing. Opportunities were enormous. Keeping so much cash could appear unnecessarily cautious, but Gates understood that a company unable to survive a surprise would never benefit from its long-term potential. The reserve was not a prediction that disaster would occur immediately. It was protection from the possibility that something outside the plan could happen. The lesson room for error is the distance between what you expect and what you can survive. You may expect investment returns of 10%. A strong plan still works with less. You may expect stable employment. A strong household can survive a period without income. You may expect a business to grow. A strong business maintains enough cash to endure disappointment. You may qualify for a large loan. A strong financial life does not automatically borrow the maximum. The future is not required to obey your spreadsheet. Many people view extra caution as wasted potential. Cash earns less than stocks. Insurance produces no visible reward when nothing goes wrong. A smaller loan may delay the purchase of a larger home. A slower business expansion may look timid beside a competitor's rapid growth. But efficiency is not the only goal. Survival matters. A system with no spare capacity works beautifully until one disruption causes total failure. Airplanes contain backup systems. Bridges are designed to carry more than the expected daily load. The human body contains redundancy. Financial lives need redundancy too. The greatest financial danger is often not the original event. It is being forced into a terrible decision because the event arrived. Without cash, an investor sells during a crash. Without savings, a worker accepts a harmful job. Without business reserves, an owner borrows on destructive terms. Without schedule flexibility, one delay destroys an entire project. Room for error can also increase ambition. A creator with savings can experiment. An investor without excessive debt can endure volatility. A worker with transferable skills can negotiate more confidently. A strong safety net does not eliminate intelligent risk. It makes intelligent risk possible. Leave space between income and expenses. Between what you can borrow and what you choose to borrow. Between the return you hope to earn and the return your plan requires. Between the deadline you want and the deadline that would create disaster. Room for error looks inefficient during normal times. During abnormal times, it can become the most valuable thing you own. It also protects a person who is easy to forget while making long-term plans. Your future self. That person may want something completely different from what you want today. Chapter 14. You'll Change Morgan Housel describes a friend who grew up with modest means and became determined to become a doctor. The goal required years of education, sacrifice, debt, and intense work. The friend eventually achieved it. Then, after becoming a doctor, he discovered that the career did not provide the life he had expected. The dream belonged to an earlier version of himself. The person who paid the cost was older and wanted different things. Psychologists describe a related pattern as the end of history illusion. People understand that they have changed greatly during the previous 10 years. Their music preferences, relationships, goals, values, and personality have evolved. But they consistently underestimate how much they will change during the next 10 years. A 20-year-old recognizes how different they are from their 10-year-old self. They still assume that their 30-year-old self will want much of what they want now. A 40-year-old can see how far they have moved from 30. They often believe 60 will simply be an older version of the present. Human beings treat their current identity as if it were the finished version. The lesson: long-term financial planning is difficult because the future person using the plan will not be identical to the person creating it. A student chooses a career according to present interests. A couple purchases a home according to current family needs. An employee accepts extreme working hours because status currently feels valuable. An investor builds a risky portfolio while responsibilities remain low. Years later, priorities change. Time becomes more important than status. A large home becomes a burden. The career loses meaning. Market volatility becomes harder to tolerate. A good plan must allow change. This does not mean avoiding commitments. A life without commitment cannot compound. Constantly changing investments, careers, and goals can prevent progress. The answer is to avoid extremes that eliminate flexibility. Someone who saves nothing has few choices. Someone whose lifestyle requires a massive salary may also have few choices. A person whose entire identity depends on one career may struggle when that career no longer fits. Lower fixed expenses make change easier. Savings make change easier. Transferable skills make change easier. Strong relationships make change easier. Avoiding unnecessary debt makes change easier. The chapter also warns about sunk costs. People remain in bad situations because they do not want past effort to feel wasted. They hold a poor investment because selling would admit an error. They stay in a career they hate because they spent years studying. They continue a failing business because too much money has already been invested. But past cost cannot be recovered by sacrificing more of the future. Do not ask only, how much have I already spent? Ask, from this point forward, which decision creates the best life? Changing your mind is not always inconsistency. It can be evidence that you are learning. The first rule of compounding is to avoid unnecessary interruption. The second is to recognize when the original plan no longer serves the person you have become. Build a life stable enough to continue and flexible enough to evolve. Every path will also contain a price. The problem is that the most important prices are rarely written on a label. Chapter 15. Nothing's free. General Electric was once one of the largest and most respected companies in the world. Its leaders developed a reputation for consistently meeting or slightly exceeding Wall Street's quarterly expectations. Investors liked the predictability. The company appeared stable, but businesses are not naturally predictable. Customers change, costs move, markets surprise. Producing perfectly smooth results can require hiding uncertainty rather than eliminating it. GE used accounting adjustments and shifted income between periods to maintain the appearance of consistency. The company avoided paying the short-term price of admitting that business results fluctuate. Over time, the hidden risks accumulated. GE's value eventually collapsed, and its reputation for dependable performance disappeared. The company tried to receive the reward of uncertainty, growth, and profit, without showing investors the price of uncertainty. Markets rarely allow that arrangement forever. The lesson: everything valuable has a price. Financial prices are not always paid in money. The price of long-term investment returns may be volatility. The price of entrepreneurship may be unstable income, rejection, responsibility, and failed experiments. The price of career growth may be uncomfortable learning and difficult decisions. The price of financial independence may be years of spending less than you can afford. Investors often want the reward of stocks without accepting the emotional cost. When markets rise, investing feels intelligent. When markets fall, they assume something has broken. They sell to escape discomfort. Then they miss the recovery that made the long-term reward possible. Housel suggests viewing volatility as a fee rather than a fine. A fine is punishment for doing something wrong. A fee is the cost of receiving something valuable. A theme park ticket provides access to a roller coaster. The downward movement is not evidence that the ride failed. It is part of the experience. Market declines are painful, but temporary declines can be part of the admission price for long-term growth. This does not mean every loss should be tolerated forever. Some investments are bad. Some businesses should close. Some careers are harmful. The challenge is distinguishing the expected price from evidence that the original reasoning has failed. Ask, was this difficulty included in the plan? Can I survive it? Does the long-term logic remain sound? Have the facts changed, or have my emotions changed? The worst time to discover your tolerance for risk is during a crisis. Decide before investing what level of decline you can realistically withstand. Do not choose an investment only because you want its return. Choose it because you can pay its price without destroying your financial or emotional health. People want success. Fewer identify the actual cost. And many copy strategies from people who are paying a completely different price because they are playing a completely different game. Chapter 16. You and Me. Cisco Systems became one of the symbols of the dot-com boom. During 1999, Cisco's share price rose dramatically. Short-term traders purchased the stock because they believed another trader would soon pay slightly more. For a trader planning to sell within hours or days, the company's long-term value was not the only consideration. The immediate trend mattered more. A price could be reasonable for someone expecting to exit before lunch and disastrous for someone planning to hold for 20 years. Long-term investors watched prices rise. They assumed the traders must understand something important. They abandoned their own valuation standards and joined the market. But they were copying people playing another game. The short-term traders wanted to sell quickly. The long-term investors were left holding shares after the bubble collapsed. Both groups saw the same price. They did not face the same consequences. The lesson: there is no single financial strategy suitable for everyone. A day trader, a pension fund, a business owner, a young employee, and a retired person may make different decisions using the same information. Their timelines differ, their responsibilities differ, their tolerance for loss differs, their goals differ. Financial advice becomes dangerous when the listener copies someone playing another game. An influencer may promote a risky asset because they plan to sell during the excitement. A celebrity may invest in a business because losing the money will not affect their basic security. A professional trader may use leverage supported by systems and risk controls a beginner does not possess. A friend may purchase a house because they expect to live there for 30 years. The decision can be logical for them and harmful for you. Before following advice, ask, what is this person's time horizon? How do they earn money? What happens if the recommendation fails? Can they survive a loss that would destroy me? Do they profit when I follow their advice? Then define your own game. Are you building emergency savings, investing for retirement, saving for a home in 2 years, protecting wealth already accumulated, speculating with money you can afford to lose? Each game has different rules. Confusion begins when a long-term investor reacts to daily price movements. It also begins when a short-term trader claims to have become a long-term investor only because the price fell. The clearest sign that you understand your game is the ability to watch someone else make money without feeling forced to copy them. Someone will always earn a higher return. Someone will become rich faster. Someone will profit from an asset you ignored. Their result does not automatically invalidate your plan. Envy pulls people out of games designed for their lives and into games designed for someone else. Know your goal. Know your timeline. Know which risks you can survive. Then stop allowing another player's scoreboard to control your decisions. This becomes especially difficult during frightening periods because bad news sounds more convincing than patient optimism. Chapter 17. The Seduction of Pessimism. Japan emerged from the Second World War devastated. Cities were destroyed. Industry had collapsed. Millions of people faced poverty and grief. An observer standing among the ruins in 1945 could easily construct a persuasive argument that Japan's future would remain hopeless. A person predicting a dramatic recovery would have sounded naive. Yet during the following decades, Japan became one of the world's leading economies. Manufacturing expanded, technology advanced, living standards rose, life expectancy improved dramatically. The optimistic forecast would have been correct. It simply would have sounded ridiculous at the moment when pessimism felt most intelligent. The same imbalance appears repeatedly. A prediction of sudden collapse attracts attention. A prediction that thousands of people will gradually solve thousands of problems sounds boring. Bad events happen quickly. Markets can fall in a day. A company can fail in months. A war can begin overnight. Progress usually arrives through small improvements spread across years. No single day feels revolutionary. The accumulated result can transform the world. The lesson. Pessimism sounds intelligent because it describes danger clearly. Optimism often sounds like a sales pitch because it depends on future solutions that cannot yet be named. A pessimist can identify the debt, conflict, disease, resource shortage, or political problem. An optimist must believe that people will adapt, innovate, and cooperate in ways that are not yet visible. Pessimism also faces less social risk. If someone predicts disaster and disaster does not happen, they are described as cautious. If someone predicts progress and a crisis occurs, they are described as foolish. Useful financial thinking combines both attitudes. Be cautious about the short term. Be optimistic about the long term. Prepare for recession, unemployment, market declines, mistakes, and unexpected expenses. At the same time, recognize that human beings repeatedly invent, rebuild, and solve problems. Long-term progress does not mean the path is painless. Economic growth can include depressions. Market gains can include major crashes. A successful career can include unemployment. A strong business can experience terrible years. Optimism is not believing everything will be fine next month. It is believing that problems create incentives for people to search for solutions over time. Constant pessimism may protect you from some losses. It can also prevent every opportunity. The person who believes markets can never recover will never compound wealth. The person convinced every business must fail will never begin. The person who assumes every industry is dying will never build expertise. Fear prevents mistakes. It can also make you miss your future. The right position is rational hope supported by preparation. Prepare for what can go wrong. Remain available for what can go right. But desperation and hope can also make people believe stories unsupported by reality. When the stakes become high enough, almost any explanation can begin sounding convincing. Chapter 18. When You'll Believe Anything. Ali Hajjaji lived in a poor village in Yemen. His young son became seriously ill. The family had little money and limited access to modern medical treatment. Village elders recommended a traditional remedy. A burning stick would be pressed through the boy's skin to drive away the illness. The procedure was dangerous, but Hajjaji was a frightened father with few alternatives. Afterward, he explained the psychology behind the decision. When a parent has no money and a child is sick, they become willing to believe almost anything. Desperation changes the standard of evidence. A story offering hope becomes more persuasive because the person needs it to be true. Financial markets contain the same vulnerability. Someone desperate to escape poverty becomes more willing to believe a promise of guaranteed returns. Someone who missed a rising investment believes a story explaining why the price must increase 10 times more. Someone terrified of losing savings believes a forecast claiming permanent collapse is only days away. The strongest story is often not the most accurate. It is the one that satisfies the strongest emotional need. The lesson: human beings dislike uncertainty. When facts are incomplete, the mind creates a story that connects what is known. The story supplies heroes, villains, causes, and predictions. It makes chaos feel understandable. After a market rises, commentators explain why the rise was inevitable. After it falls, equally confident commentators explain why the fall was obvious. The explanation changes with the outcome. The confidence remains. People are especially vulnerable to appealing stories when those stories justify something they already want to do. The person wanting quick wealth believes the promoter promising effortless profit. The person wanting to quit work believes only the successful entrepreneurship stories. The person wanting status believes luxury will create respect. The frightened investor believes the most dramatic prediction of collapse. Before accepting a financial claim, ask, do I believe this because the evidence is strong, or because I need it to be true? Does the opportunity fit my long-term plan, or am I feeling jealous because someone else is profiting? Have the facts changed, or has a powerful story changed my emotions? More information does not automatically create better judgment. The modern world offers unlimited experts, charts, videos, and opinions. A person can always find evidence supporting the decision they already prefer. Critical thinking requires searching for the strongest argument against your belief. A successful person may honestly explain what they did and still misunderstand why it worked. Luck, timing, market conditions, and hidden support may have contributed. A failed person may blame the wrong cause. Memory itself edits the past to create a clean narrative. Sometimes the most honest answer is, several forces contributed, and I cannot know exactly how much each mattered. That answer feels unsatisfying. It may also be the truth. The final chapters of the book bring these ideas together and turn them into a practical philosophy. Chapter 19. All together. Now, a patient visits a doctor with an uncertain illness. The doctor has studied many diseases, treatments, and outcomes, but no single rule can replace judgment. The treatment must consider the patient's history, current condition, tolerance, goals, and the possibility that the diagnosis is incomplete. Money works the same way. No formula can perfectly manage every person's financial life. Someone supporting a large family requires a different safety margin from a young worker with few expenses. A business owner with uncertain income needs different reserves from a government employee with a stable salary. A person traumatized by debt may reasonably choose more security than a mathematical model recommends. The lessons in the book are not instructions to copy one exact portfolio. They are principles for making decisions in an uncertain world. The lesson: be humble when things go right. Luck may have helped. Forgive yourself when things go wrong. Risk may have played a role. Save without requiring a specific reason. Unplanned savings purchase future options. Control your ego. Spending to impress others creates little lasting value and reduces independence. Manage money in a way that allows you to sleep. The strategy you can maintain is better than the strategy you abandon. Increase your time horizon. Compounding becomes powerful when good decisions are allowed to remain uninterrupted. Accept that many attempts will fail. You do not need to be correct every time if failures remain limited, and successes can become meaningful. Use money to control your time. Autonomy often improves life more than visible consumption. Respect the hidden price of success. Market returns require volatility. Business growth requires uncertainty. Meaningful careers require difficult learning. Leave room for error. Do not create a plan that collapses when one assumption is wrong. Avoid financial extremes. Extreme risk can cause ruin. Extreme caution can prevent growth. Extreme saving can remove all enjoyment from the present. Extreme spending can steal freedom from the future. Know which game you are playing. Do not copy people with different timelines, responsibilities, or incentives. Prepare for surprise. History reveals patterns in human behavior, not a perfect picture of the next crisis. Define enough. Without a boundary, ambition becomes endless comparison. The philosophy can be reduced to one goal: build a financial life that is difficult to destroy. You do not need to maximize every opportunity. You need to remain alive, flexible, and emotionally stable long enough for reasonable decisions to compound. The book then becomes personal. Morgan Housel explains how he applies these principles to his own money. Chapter 20. Confessions. Morgan Housel does not claim that his personal financial plan is mathematically perfect. He and his wife prioritize independence. They live below what their income could support. They purchase their home without a mortgage, even though borrowing money and investing the difference might have produced a higher expected return. The decision was not made to maximize wealth on a spreadsheet. Owning the home completely gave them peace. They also keep more cash than many financial advisors would recommend. Cash produces lower long-term returns than stocks, but it provides protection from being forced to sell investments during an emergency. The cash allows the long-term investments to remain untouched and continue compounding. For investing, Housel prefers simple, low-cost index funds. He does not attempt to identify the next winning company or predict the next crash. He believes in the long-term ability of businesses and economies to create value, while accepting that the journey will include severe declines. His system is not designed to make him look brilliant. It is designed to produce endurance, independence, and sleep. The lesson: personal finance is personal. A mathematically efficient plan that causes constant anxiety may not be the right plan for you. Someone else may rationally carry a mortgage while investing aggressively. Another person may prefer the emotional security of owning a home outright. One person may feel comfortable holding nearly all long-term savings in stocks. Another may need a larger cash reserve to remain calm during a crash. The decision should still be informed. It should account for inflation, risk, fees, and opportunity cost. But personal values belong in the calculation. Housel's main objective is independence. That objective determines the plan. Your objective may be supporting family, retiring early, building a business, owning a home, traveling, or creating a stable life without debt. The strategy should serve the objective. Do not build a financial plan simply because it makes you appear sophisticated. Complexity is not proof of intelligence. Simplicity has enormous value when it makes good behavior easier to repeat. A successful plan should continue when you are busy, frightened, disappointed, or distracted. It should not require constant prediction. It should protect you from your worst emotional decisions. Housel's confession is not a command to copy his exact allocation. It is an example of aligning money with a clearly defined life. The most important financial question is not, what strategy produces the largest possible number? It is, what do I want money to do for my life? Once that answer is clear, many decisions become easier. Practical action. Plan. Turning the book into your system. The book's lessons become valuable only when behavior changes. Begin with your definition of enough. Write down the life you are actually trying to build. How much income would cover your needs comfortably? Which debts must be removed? How many months of expenses would make you feel secure? How much control do you want over your schedule? What are you unwilling to sacrifice merely to earn more? Next, calculate the gap between income and spending. Do not judge yourself. Observe the numbers. Identify which expenses genuinely improve your life. Identify which ones exist mainly because of habit, comparison, or status. Protect a portion of every increase in income from lifestyle inflation. Build an emergency reserve. The correct size depends on your responsibilities and the reliability of your income. A person with uncertain business income may require more than someone with stable employment. Its purpose is not to generate the highest return. Its purpose is to prevent an emergency from becoming a permanent financial disaster. Avoid ruin. Do not invest rent, food, medical, education, or emergency money into highly speculative assets. Do not use debt that requires every future event to go well. Before considering the upside of a decision, study the downside. Ask whether you can survive being wrong. Choose an investment strategy you understand. Use a time horizon appropriate for your goal. Money required in 2 years should not be treated like money intended for retirement decades from now. Do not allow short-term traders, influencers, or headlines to redefine your plan. Create room for error. Assume expenses may be higher than expected. Income may be interrupted. Investment returns may be lower. Goals may take longer. A plan that survives disappointment is stronger than a plan requiring perfection. Use money to purchase time. Reduce payments that trap future income. Develop skills that increase career options. Save enough to walk away from situations that violate your values. Measure wealth partly through the number of choices available to you. Accept the price. Long-term investing includes declines. Building a business includes failed experiments. Learning a valuable skill includes periods when progress remains invisible. Do not mistake every difficult moment for evidence that the journey is wrong. At the same time, remain willing to update the plan when the facts change. You will change. The economy will change. Your responsibilities will change. Keep the principles stable while allowing the details to evolve. Finally, protect peace. Money should eventually reduce the amount of time you spend worrying about money. A plan producing slightly lower expected returns but allowing you to sleep may be more successful than one producing endless anxiety. Peace is not a weakness. It is one of money's most valuable returns. Conclusion. The person who has really won 2 people can reach the end of their working lives with completely different definitions of success. The first person earns an extraordinary income. They own expensive cars, a large house, luxury clothing, and every visible symbol of achievement. People watching from a distance believe the person is rich, but the lifestyle requires constant income. The payments cannot stop. Every market decline creates fear. Every richer neighbor creates dissatisfaction. Work is no longer a choice. It is the machine keeping the appearance alive. The second person earns less. Their home is modest. Their car attracts no attention. Their clothes reveal nothing about their bank account. But they have savings. They have investments. They can survive an emergency. They can help their family. They can reject work that violates their values. They have enough control over their time to experience the life their money was supposed to support. Which person has won? That depends on the purpose of money. If money is a competition to display the most, the first person may appear victorious. If money is a tool for creating security, freedom, and a meaningful life, the second person may already possess everything that matters. The psychology of money does not promise that behavior can control every outcome. Luck remains. Risk remains. Surprises remain. Markets will fall. Industries will change. Plans will fail. Some people will receive opportunities they did not earn. Others will suffer events they did not deserve. You cannot control every part of the financial world. You can control how fragile you allow your life to become. You can refuse to risk what you need for something you do not need. You can create a gap between income and ego. You can save without knowing exactly what the savings will purchase. You can give compounding enough time. You can prepare for bad luck while remaining available for good luck. You can stop confusing visible consumption with invisible wealth. You can recognize that another person's success does not require you to abandon your own game. You can use money to buy control rather than attention. And you can decide what enough means before comparison decides it for you. The world may never notice the best financial decisions you make. Nobody will applaud the debt you avoided, the investment you refused to sell in panic, the luxury purchase you decided did not matter, the emergency fund that quietly protected you, the opportunity you rejected because the risk of ruin was too high, the years during which your money compounded without producing an exciting story. But you will experience the result. You will feel it when an emergency arrives and does not destroy you, when a harmful job no longer controls you, when an opportunity appears and you have enough time to consider it, when you can help someone you love, when you stop checking whether your life looks successful and begin noticing that it feels successful. That is the real psychology of money. Not learning how to appear rich, learning how to behave well enough for long enough to become free. And one day, after years of patience, discipline, mistakes, recovery, and growth, you may discover that the greatest reward was never the number in the account. It was the life that number allowed you to control. Your choices, your peace, your time, and the quiet confidence of knowing that your money belongs to you, instead of your life belonging to your money.